Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder here. It is Socialing the Distance. We have a real treat today. Garrett Heath, who is the new head of sports marketing at Brooks. Garrett is our first three-timer on Socialing the Distance. Hey, Garrett, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be back.
Yeah, congratulations on you've now one of those athletes who have moved from the athlete part of the biz to the business part of running. How is that going for you?
Yeah, it's been hectic, chaotic, and fun so far. I've only been on the job for a couple weeks, but so far it's included going to Boston and watching the marathon there and being a part of the hype house that Brooks had and seeing a bunch of our athletes. And so, yeah, can't complain. It's been fun.
What was your experience in Boston as a member of the business community in running?
I think, as an athlete, like you just, you're so focused on your race and you're focused on just staying relaxed that weekend and kind of like, being around the brand, but just getting your last couple runs in, totally spacing out, watching as much Netflix as you can, whatever. They like
Yeah.
you somewhat get the experience, but in a totally different way. And so I think it was neat to be on the other side and see everything going on behind the scenes that goes into the production of what Brooks is trying to do there to be engaged with runners, to be connected to the community, to support their athletes, just kind of like to build the hype and be out on course supporting people. And so it was fun. I mean, it was fun to be, kind of part of the being a cheerleader for like a bunch of the athletes that we had there. And just an all around great experience to be on the other side.
Des Linden, when I've watched her in Boston, it's like she owns the city, man. It is like she's a total rock star. And um, I really wanted to see her and Kara do their podcast. Was the crowd pretty good for that one?
The crowd was packed. Like I didn't even get to be in there to see it because like I didn't want to take up one of the spots, but the line was out the door. People were like standing outside listening in. It was cool. I mean, yeah, Des is a legend there, and it's fun to see the excitement that she brings to people, and it's fair, just being around her. She has such a good personality, and I think the success she's had as a runner is something that's like contagious to want to be around. But like, just seeing her interact with people and causing such an emotional response is something that you don't like always see in running. And I think that was fun to just witness firsthand there and see how much the city is just behind running for that few day stretch. Yeah, I mean, we even went to the Boston Red Sox game, and the Red Sox were wearing uniforms for the Boston Marathon, which like I don't know how many other events there are out there where the major sports are identifying with running, or like recognizing the running side of athletics. And so it was pretty neat for that to be so much synergy to be happening across the city and like everyone who's in the community there. So
Over the last 30 years, John Hancock was a sponsor at Boston, and now they've retired, and Bank of America is coming in. And what I found, and I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on this. In Chicago, it's Bank of America's Chicago Marathon. In Boston, it's going to be Boston presented by the Bank of America. There seems to be this respect, even by a sponsor like Bank of America, for the culture, the unique culture that is part of Boston. Um, how do you describe, you've been at other big city races. How would you describe that feeling in Boston as opposed to like being at New York, being at another marathon?
yeah, I think, like I said, this is like one of my first times really being like in it for a marathon. Like I've been at a bunch of them before. I've been in New York before for the marathon, competing in like the 5K beforehand, but then kind of hanging around to watch. But I think it was different being totally immersed in everything going on. That said, like I just don't see any other marathons in the country getting so much hype in the way that Boston does from the whole city, like I think the course runs for such a long distance too, that like you get all of these different communities along the way, just like excited and out cheering. You see all the different cheer stations and, um, and like the atmosphere around like Boylston and kind of the finish line there for I don't know, the 3 days leading up is just totally, chaos, but in all the best ways. It's like people are just getting amped up, whether you're racing or not. It's hard to not be. So
I wanted to ask you about one of the events that Brooks sponsors, the Brooks PR Invite. When it first started, it was an indoor event. I went to it for 5 straight years. I loved it. I just loved the purity and the simplicity of bringing 10 or 15 kids in each event, lining them up, giving them fun stuff. You guys kept it fun for them, and they got to race. And wow, did they get to race. And then you took it outdoor, and Candace Hill became the first American girl to break 11 seconds for 100 meters. So it's got this rep. But Brooks seems to be able to figure out they're not going to fight Nike face to face. They're going to let Nike and New Balance beat the crap out of each other with crazy high school stuff. But you're going to find events that are part of your brand. What are you learning is the type of brand message that the running culture wants to see from Brooks? Is that too early of a question to ask right now? Do I need to come back in a year?
yeah, I think my head's like spinning in the first week or two of being on the ground here and
Sure.
figuring out exactly where things fit. But I think we are as a brand really excited about trying to engage more with like high school athletes and younger, and as well as just kind of like communities in general. And that's been a big initiative that we've kind of been growing in as a brand, and adding more people who focus directly on that. And so, exactly how we do that and how we make that work at the high school elite level, like Brooks PR is a big focus within sports marketing here. But I think I always kind of trying to find ways, because it's like, that's the next generation, those are the people that really carry the sport long term, is like, and everybody wants to give back to the, kids. It's like, that's where the fun really start. You can see the fun, in the playful nature of just running in general. It doesn't have to be kind of like, it doesn't have to be work. It can just be kind of play more than anything. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know totally to answer your question yet, but I think, yeah, it is exciting as a brand how much we're trying to like look at opportunities there in the high school and younger kind of category to be more engaged.
You've got two clubs that Brooks supports. And I mess the name up all the time. Hanson's Brooks Original Distance Project. I think that's the name that the brothers Hanson want me to use now. And then the Brooks Beast. How do, the way that I look at Hanson's, it's pretty old school running club. The brothers have been doing this for a long time. They put back into it. You do the daily grind. They've had some great athletes come out. I mean, Des was there for a long time. And then you've got Brooks Beast under, Danny Mackey. And Danny is, I love to say that he's possessed by the scientific method, because the guy can geek out more than I can. And I love his observations about training and racing. And he was your coach for a long, long time. What do you see that he provides for athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think from both Danny and Keith and Kevin, it's like you can just see the passion for their athletes when you talk to them. And I think that's like a big piece, is like they're all just so bought into like, helping make or allow their athletes to find success like on the track, but also just like super invested in them as like a person. And I think, for Danny specifically, it's like he has such an analytical mind and like knows the science behind the sport as well as anyone I've ever been around on the coaching level. That I think that's something that he really brings and allows people to like buy into his training, is like you can ask him a question, you can go as deep as you want, and he can take you there as far as like why he's doing what he's doing.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
and so I think that helps get buy-in, because as as you get older, I think you start to internalize your training a lot more. You start to think about like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or like, this is how I'm feeling. What does that mean? And so he is someone who's like, he's got the knowledge, he's got the background in science to say, yeah, this is why we're lifting at these times of the week. This is why we're doing this the way we are, why we're incorporating this in our training. And so I think that, he's got a lot of strengths, but I think that's probably one of the ones that stands out to me as like something that he brings that not everyone has. And one of the reasons that he's one of the best coaches out there. So
Have you been surprised by how Josh Kerr has run?
no, but because that's only because I've had a chance to be around Josh in training and, see what sort of competitor he is. It's like, you don't have to spend much time around Josh to see what sort of talent he has, but also just the mindset that he brings to the track every day. And it's contagious. It's fun to be around as his teammate. And I know like he forces everyone around him to elevate their game as well. And even just talking to a couple of the guys the other day, it's like, yeah, like people are excited when they train together. It's like, yeah, they know Josh is going to push them in a way that they maybe wouldn't be able to push themselves, but like they embrace it. And yeah, it's like it's not surprising in the sense of like, I think you can see it immediately when you're with Josh. On the other hand, I think it's maybe always surprising when you're around someone who wins a medal. I think it's such a, when you're growing up, I think that's the goal, the ultimate goal of everyone who's ever gone into running, right? Like, is to win an Olympic medal. And so you can never take it for granted, but is it something that ever has seemed out of the wheelhouse for Josh? Like, no, and I think we'll continue to see him competitive there for quite some time.
Does Brooks as a company, and I've talked to Jim about this a little bit. I asked Jim off the record a couple of times, as he realized how incredible it is for a brand his size to have an Olympic medal. And I think he gets it part of the way. But when you write about athletes for 40 years, you see how many have tried and the kind of race he ran and against who he ran. And one of his first reactions afterwards was, I think I can do better. And I'm fascinated by that too,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated that the brands give athletes opportunities. But this is where I wanted to take it for a few minutes. You know, Jesse Williams, who, Jesse worked at Brooks for a long time. Jesse is doing
Mm-hmm.
some crazy fun stuff with sound running. I think things, I call them bespoke track meets. For $15, it is sound running upcoming meet. You can get food trucks, a beer, meet athletes, and get to watch it at the new Mount Sac, facility, which is going to be a lot of fun. And we need to shake things up like that. But what's happening is that the sport so much relies on the brands to do everything. How do we shake it up a little bit to bring other business entities in to see what the running brands have seen, that supporting running is a good thing and building the sport is a good thing? Is it something that you will be focused on?
My main focus is bringing in Brooks more and finding ways to keep us engaged with our
Sure.
athletes. I think an important part is when you do invest in an athlete, that like you're holistically both taking care of that athlete and also like finding ways to utilize that athlete in the brand to
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
Brooks as well as to grow that person's brand, because I think ultimately whatever you do to grow their brand is a double positive, because it also grows the Brooks brand. They're representative of you. And so I think the more, Jesse's awesome. Like, I work with Jesse, obviously I know Jesse from his time at Brooks. I know Jesse as a friend. I know Jesse from working with him now with Sound Running. And he's had to take a lot of risks with what he's doing, but I think you can see the excitement in the sport to come in, or for everything that he's built. It's like he's the number of times, I think he's done probably, I don't want to put words in his mouth because, I don't know exactly what he would say, but I think like he's probably made it like the first step in what he's trying to do, in the sense that like everybody in the country wants to be at his meets. A good portion of the fastest 5K and 10K times in the country and the world have come from his meets the past few years. So
Yeah.
he's successful with that metric. I think probably the next step that he's trying to do is like, okay, how do you then engage you've got the best people coming to your meets, you're building the
Yeah.
platform. Now how do you bring fans in? Because ultimately, direct marketing dollars is where like, or showing kind of that ROI a little bit more. It's hard to do exactly, to say how does a or how does like someone running well or eyeballs on a race translate into direct dollars in a brand's pocket or spend on their product. But I think the more you can show people are watching, the more you can have people at the meet, the more you can build that atmosphere, the more you're going to get interest from brands outside of running to be engaged as well. Because there's more than just like the value of the elite athlete directly to their followers. You're hitting other groups, you're bringing in new runners, and you're just, I think, the excitement goes beyond just the track that day.
One of the things you just said was that what your main focus is finding new opportunities for Brooks, expanding the viewing of Brooks athletes in the running culture as well. How much is social media a part of that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I think it typically it's been an add-on, I think, or like kind of a bonus kind of cherry on top to anyone's value to a brand. And to be transparent, like I'm trying to figure that out, as to how much
Sure.
we want to put emphasis on that, because it is very important from a brand's perspective to how do we, elevate these athletes? How do we elevate their profile? But at the same time, we're signing these athletes because their competition, their running, and the results there are what has allowed them that platform, right? Like, and that's what we initially have valued to like bring someone in as part of one of these teams, and why we think they can be successful, whether that's within the US, whether it's on the world stage or Olympic stage. So it's a trade-off. And, I think that's an ongoing discussion for me in the first couple of weeks, something that
Sure.
to build a good strategy about.
In the past, Brooks has sponsored the European Athletics Championships and championships in other countries. Do you see yourself expanding on that? Is that something that you're looking at, but you're trying to figure out what the value is?
I don't know. I haven't got there yet. Yeah, I think,
Sure. No problem. No.
no, I think there's a real value in Europe right now, and we are trying to grow our European presence a lot. I think we've got a very good trail
Sure.
team in Europe right now. We've got over 40 trail athletes on the European side. And so
Wow.
we've
Okay.
invested there. We've got a handful of European track athletes, and so I think there is a desire to have a strong presence there and a growing presence. Exactly where those dollars go, I haven't had a chance to like look through things too specifically yet, but so I think we're really excited about a lot of the stuff that's happening on trail in Europe. Really excited to figure out how to like engage new runners in Europe. And we've got a team on the ground there in Amsterdam as well as the UK, and I think a few other places as well that I'm hoping to connect with in the coming weeks, and see how we can work together and support each other. So
A lot of the footwear brands, or many of the top footwear brands, have a presence in a big marathon. Do you see Brooks going into the marathon sponsorship business, or is that kind of limited in value, at least in your opinion?
Yeah, as of now, it's like I'm probably too early to make much of a statement on
Sure, sure.
it. Obviously I'm someone who just gets excited about everything. And so like, yeah, the more we can be,
Yeah,
the better. But there's trade-offs and, where we're spending our money and stuff like that. But yeah, we are involved with a few marathons. I know that we're doing some stuff with the Monumental Marathon in Indiana. I know that we sponsored Houston this last year. We do
one of my
have,
favorites. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think like we are interested as a brand as far as like what those partnerships look like. I'm not totally sure, but yeah, I think there's potential to grow that, especially if we start to see success in some of those. And I know we have kind of full support across the brand from a bunch of different groups to like build like a really cool experience there. So I know that Brooks is very intentional about the events they pick. And also like the events that they do pick to be involved in, like really going all in and making sure that we have like this really cool kind of community experience that engages the runners and, creates just a fun, run happy vibe, I think is the best way to say it. And just always trying to like, not just kind of throwing money, just for the sake of throwing money, more just like, how do we build this all inclusive experience at those events? So yeah, sorry, no good answer there, but I think,
No,
there's
no. Hey, look,
work for sure.
Garrett, you've always been honest, and that's what I appreciate. Um, you had some incredible experiences in cross country. I got to see you over in Scotland with, I thought, one of the most hellacious cross country courses in my life experience. Cross country is almost a cult thing over here. The NCAA cross country is crazy town.
Hmm.
Um, do you see Brooks looking in that area, are possibly looking in that area in the future to for opportunities? You've got growth in trail running, which is huge. Cross country at the high school level, there's 500,000 kids in it, but it's also a big thing at the college level. And masters runners seem to really like it, and cross country runners buy a lot of shoes. So I'm just kind of curious about kind of thought process there.
Yeah, no, I think we're definitely interested in it. We sponsored the XC champs at TRE that Jesse put on this last year.
That
So
was awesome. Yeah.
yeah, that was really cool. I was, lucky to be, I was involved in that on the other side as well, kind of not an athlete, but I don't know, some other in between. Got to interview some of the people on the panel there and stuff at TRE beforehand, which was fun and just kind of, it's a fun one to build some rivalries. And, I think it's like, it's early season, but he's done a good job at getting like big names involved in cross. And so I think on the pro side, we have missed that in the US a little bit of like having more of a circuit, having more of a season for cross country. There's been, a few meets here and there. There's always US champs. There was the Edinburgh race. But yeah, I mean, like we are invested in it, and even, Dylan Maggard, Ali Buhalski, both of them were at World Cross this year for us down in Australia. And so like, even with our pros, it is a priority to show up for cross country, for particularly the longs groups, but there's also the shorter relays and stuff now. So I think on the high school front, again, there's probably, there's more discussions to be had there, but that does go back to some of the community stuff that we're doing, and we're doing it through the involvement with teams and sponsoring some teams with some product across the country, and being involved at schools where there's some need for product, for support. And so just trying to continue to find ways to be involved with high schools or coaches at high schools to get, the support they need. So
How hard was it for you to decide it was time to stop racing?
I haven't decided yet.
Okay. Oh, no, that's why
Uh,
I'm just really curious. Am I going
yeah,
to see you
yeah.
on the track doing a 10,000 again?
No, no, I don't think you'll see me on any tracks doing any 10,000s. But no, I think,
Trail?
maybe on the trail at some point. I think it was good timing in the sense that like there's always more things in your own career to be chasing. But I've had as good of a stretch as I could have possibly ever imagined. I didn't know college running was possible in high school. I didn't know professional running was possible until I was in college, and so like never imagined running as a professional, let alone running as a professional for nearly as long as I have. So, just I feel, yeah, very lucky to have gotten the opportunity to chase goals and dreams, for this many years. And so I think I feel totally comfortable just putting other people's priorities and other people's races ahead of my own and like really trying to help other people grow their careers. And just, I think obviously being tied into the Brooks brand for so long and being around a lot of these people that I get to work with now is just super exciting because, as a teammate, as another Brooks athlete, like I've always cheered for them or like, been invested in their success. But now I get to hopefully support that in a different way, and find ways to just kind of keep building on that. So yeah, honestly, like I haven't missed it to this point. Like I'm still, running a little bit, but my focus has totally shifted to just, getting excited about other people's racing. So we'll see. Maybe down the road I'll do some other things, but for now it's just all in on our teams and our Mavericks out there racing. So
What's the benefit of having a long-term relationship with a coach? You've experienced that as a professional athlete with Danny. Could you comment on that?
yeah, I think, after a while you just get to know each other so well, that when someone's having a bad day. You don't have to have, like as a coach, you don't have to have someone tell you if they're having a bad day. You can read it on their face or in the way their body language is. Um, you start to, every athlete's different, there's different training cycle, different things that each athlete responds to. And I think it takes a while to figure that out as a coach, like who's responding to the shorter stuff, longer stuff, who needs a little bit more rest. As you get older, I think you tend to need a little bit more rest than some of the younger people. But yeah, I think just that familiarity, I think it becomes important because, it's running training is not just like this prescriptive exercise where one size fits all and you just say, hey, everyone go do this workout and you get the same results from each person. It's like you have to know two people the outcome may be the same in a 5K, right? They could both run 13 flat in a 5K, and the training that goes into that and the way they get there could be totally opposite from one another. And so I think it's not till you have a year or two or three under your belt with a coach that you really start to like build the relationship that you need to like kind of find all those nuances and have like as a coach have an understanding how your athlete feels, and as an athlete have the familiarity and um the relationship to say, hey coach, like I'm not feeling this, or this is off, or like give a bit more honest feedback um of how you're responding to training. So yeah, I think it is important, but it's hard and it's rare in the sport, because um, careers are short, tend to be short, and people jump around, and injury plays into things, and so yeah, it is more rare than it should be.
What was your favorite distance on the track to race?
I think, gosh, I don't know. I go back like the 1500. I love the 1500. It's like it's short and fast, but there's like so much gamesmanship that goes into it. And that third lap is just like, you've just got to grind that third lap, and no one wants to, and it's so easy to let yourself off the hook. So it's such a mental battle every 1500 of like how to stay engaged and how to like keep the gas down on that third lap when it's like everyone wants to save for the kick. But yeah, I love them all. And I guess, yeah, I think when I think through them, all I can think about is the pain that's involved in each, but it's like kind of like addicting. They each have their own.
Oh, sure. Well, Garrett, you survived 40 minutes with me. I want to see you at a track meet soon so we can stand on the fence and I can ask you questions about the race. But I'm so happy to see you still in the sport, my friend. And congratulations. I think you're in the perfect position for you in sports marketing. And I wish you great success. And thanks again for you were our first three-peater, man. You've done 3 interviews on Socialing the Distance, so we'll put the links up. And I went back to try to see when the first story I did about you. I think it was 13 years ago. So I'm gonna have to go back and find it. And I'll find some embarrassing pictures and put them up. But
Great.
but that's the kind of stuff that I do like to do. But Garrett Heath is the head of sports marketing at Brooks, and he gave us some time this afternoon. After 2 weeks of craziness, you've just been on the job for 2 weeks. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you soon, my friend. Thank you.
Same, yeah. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder here. This is Socialing the Distance. Today, we're speaking with Garrett Heath. He's the new head of sports marketing at Brooks. Garrett was a fine runner in high school, a fine runner at Stanford. His brother was a good runner at Stanford as well, and an incredibly strong and promising elite distance runner who ran the 1500 with all his heart, the 5,000, the 10,000, and then moved to the trails. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been soaking in everything about about sports marketing at Brooks. I think he'll shake it up. He is a very thoughtful person, fun interviews. This is his second interview with Socialing the Distance, and then I've interviewed him back in 2016 on some things too. But a real fun interview. I think you'll enjoy it. And thanks again to Mike Deering for producing all these Socialing the Distance interviews. We are back in 2023. Have a great day.